ladies and gentlemen. Today it's an honor for us to have Magnus Broman from Karolinska Institutet, and we would like to cover some topics in this afternoon. And we would like to start with the precision medicine and also data-driven decision making. But before we start, I'd like to introduce you about this event, which called by Seminar Rabuan or a Wednesday seminar, which we held specifically today in Tuesday. So this Wednesday seminar is an event where experts and also academia share their perspective and experience in a specific topic. And as we have known that our program from the Master of Health Policy and Management, we have two specific programs, which is the first is Hospital Management Studies, and the second is about Health Service Policy and Management, Health Management Information System, and also the last is Health Financing Policy and Insurance Management Studies. And in this occasion, so our topic is highly related to Health Management Information System. So I would like to encourage students from this program to prepare your concern, your discussion and topic, so we can later share our ideas with Magnus. And before we start with the contents, I would like to introduce you to Magnus Broman. He is professor in Intelligent Software Services from Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan. So it feels like our engineering university in Bandung, Indonesia. Perhaps you have also experienced visiting Indonesia, Magnus. And he has been serving as professor in KTH or Kungliga Tekniska Högskolan Stockholm since 2003. And recently, Magnus appointed as the member of AI project for the president of Karolinska Institutet in 2020 and started the Precision Medicine Reference Group at the same university, Karolinska, from 2021. And the last position that appointed to him is at MedTech's Lab, which is a joint collaboration between KI and KTH. So this is like the largest medicine university in Sweden and also like the top engineering university, KTH, at Sweden also. And he is affiliated to KI, which is affiliated Informatics Management and Ethics Department, and also have affiliation with KI or KEP related to clinical epidemiology. So without further ado, I would like to invite Magnus. And how are you, Magnus?
I'm very well, thank you. And nice to see you again, Dimas, and nice to see so many students online.
Yes.
I'll try to share my screen here. I looked up the temperature where you are, and it said it's about 33 degrees Celsius. So I have 1 degree Celsius.
That's correct.
Almost,
actually, in the past
almost
week, we have
this
like
morning.
some kind of like a heat wave. I mean, it's not that heat wave disaster, but in the past week, our temperature remained high. So that's why we have around 33, 34. But it's really nice for you if remain interested to visit Indonesia next year. So I think April, May, or like in the middle of the year, that will be very excellent, Magnus. So we are very honored to welcome you also during your visit next year.
Yeah, I would love to come. Let's see. Let's keep our hopes up, both ends. I guess you can see my screen okay? Or
yep, and now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So so after that kind introduction from Dimas, I don't need to comment much on this first slide. I just like to say that I also do some work at UCL in London, which I love to do. It's at the psychology department, and it's all about AI and epidemiology over there. And I've been involved with epidemiology for almost 20 years. So I'm working for the European CDC. You know, the world CDC is in Atlanta, Georgia, in the US, but the European CDC is here in Stockholm. And we've been very busy during the pandemic to read and review all the papers that people wrote, but not so much AI and machine learning in there. So today I will focus on what it's like to work at a very nice medical university as affiliated, and also to be in the hospital. So today is Tuesday. Tuesdays are my hospital days when I'm in medtech labs, as Dimas explained. It's shared between KA and KTH, and it's all about, I'd say, imaging for various purposes. So medical imaging, so that would be all sorts of magnetic resonance, CT, computerized tomography, but also more unusual imaging like magnetoencephalography and so on. I might get back to that. But let's move on to the actual topic of today, precision medicine. If we start there, a very early definition came 10 years ago, and it talked about the tailoring of medical treatment to the individual characteristics of each patient. And as you know, it's been called personalized medicine. There is a lot of focus on prevention and so on. But I'd like to stress the thing that's in the middle here, to classify individuals into subpopulations. So we talk about patient stratification. So we have a patient cohort, and then we want to be more particular in our help to the people that need it. So it could be about diagnosis, it could be about treatment, it could be about curative care, or it could be about reasoning in a multidisciplinary way how to best help this patient. So we define here at Karolinska Institute that precision medicine as multimodal patient stratification. So this stratification is about cutting up the cohort, so to speak, in various subparts. So it could be men, women, it could be younger, older, it could be at risk, not so high risk, and so on. And doing this in various ways, so we get down almost to individual level. So an early name for precision medicine was N equals 1 medicine. So instead of having population considerations, we had individual considerations. So this is how it started 10 years ago. And then a few years later in the US again, actually it says it was in 2013 already, President Obama of the US, the then president, he awarded the National Medal of Science to Lee Hood, which we see in this picture. And Lee Hood, he was one of the early pioneers of studying healthy people to figure out what it is that they are doing right, to keep them healthy, and what is in the genetics, what is in the lifestyle, what is in the interaction between genotype and phenotype, and so on. And I think he got $2 million from the president to do a very large study. And one of the quotes is in this slide, and it says that you're actually considering computer-driven analytics, so you're data-driven. But he says, I wouldn't say it's AI. That term is so overused. And remember, he said this 10 years ago. You can imagine what he would have said now about the AI term being overused, because now in the last 3 years, even according to me, it's really been overused. But it's important to note that precision medicine can use AI, but it does not always require AI to work perfectly. And we'll get back to that. I'll show you what I mean. And in fact, there is a quote that says that the use of machine learning to inform precision medicine is a field that's still in its infancy a couple of years ago. So there are many researchers that argue that we are on the beginning of a very long path. And in health informatics in particular, we have a lot of work to do with trying to understand how to replace one process, which was very population-based, with another process for care and for research that is more individual based or based on smaller cohorts, these stratifications that I was talking about before. And it's connected to costs, it's connected to how long a person needs to be in hospital. So sometimes in the definition of precision medicine, we also include monitoring in the definition. And that's because, as you know, if someone is in the intensive unit, they are monitored heavily, almost 24/7, maybe second monitoring if possible, if we can afford it and if we have the equipment. But in the future, we might see people staying fewer days in the hospital, going home earlier, but being monitored. So there is an attentiveness from the care side, but the person is actually not an inpatient in the hospital. So we talk about heart failure. Normally, someone is today in the hospital for a week. In the future, maybe they are 3-4 days in the hospital, 3-4 days at home. If everything is okay, they are then sent to primary care if they have any questions or concerns about their health. So this is a huge process for society to consider, and therefore health informatics is really important. So I said it's defined as multimodal patient stratification. What is that? Well, we have, instead of the individual to get a diagnosis and to get a treatment being remitted to various experts and various facilities in the hospital and care units, this person is put in the center, as in the picture at left here. So it could be related to genomics. It could be related to other omics like proteomics. It could be related to molecular medicine and a lot of lab work, but it could also be related to imaging. And here we have MRI, CT, PET. And why do we do this? Well, we are hoping to find biomarkers. So we can look for biomarkers for rare diseases, but also for the more common population diseases. And usually people talk about cancer when they talk about precision medicine, but it's not all about cancer. It's very interesting to consider the precision medicine approach, I would say. And if you have questions about this at the end, we can discuss, but also for chronic diseases where over decades, a person builds up a database about him or herself, and a longitudinal database is shaped over the decades in the hospital. And the more information that is there, the more interesting is the conclusions you can do. I'm in a room where the room went out, so I just have to move around to get it up again. So we have data from routine healthcare. That could be from primary care, something in an electronic health record. We could have genotyping. That could be high quality, not so high quality. We could have molecular medicine. We could have histology information. We could have various body fluids. Could be saliva, could be blood, could be plasma. This could be used also for DNA, RNA purposes. We have these various images. And last but not least, we have the patient-reported data and symptoms. So in Sweden, as in many other countries, we do routine screening at a particular age. For instance, I was recently screened for colon cancer. And that's just a simple test you do yourself. You don't even have to answer any question. You send in a sample and they check that you don't have blood in your stool, basically. So that's easy. But you can get sick without being screened. You can become seriously ill between screening opportunities, and maybe there are no screening in the country you reside in. Then if you go to primary care and they suspect that it could be a serious condition, you can fill out questionnaires, you can write in free text, you can use apps to communicate with care. And this has been true for many years, but what has in recent years happened is that this data is collected in a more structured form. So there are particular enquetes that you fill out question by question, and there are automatic risk scores computed and other things computed based on the PROM, so-called the patient-reported outcomes and symptoms. And this has proved very useful because remember, precision medicine, as it says here at the top, multimodal patient stratification. We have images modalities, we have genetics and other omics modalities, but we can also have text. We can have the patient's or the person's own text. And maybe this person is not ill at all. Maybe it's something not serious at all. And maybe it is not necessary to do expensive imaging on this person, or the other way around. Maybe you are suspecting, for instance, lung cancer, where you know that the window is fairly short if you want to move to curative care. Then imaging might come earlier, even if this person is not being screened. They just come to primary care, fill out the questionnaire, and then they are imaged very quickly so that one can rule out or diagnose this person. And of course, the important thing is not, does this person have lung cancer or not? The important thing is always, the clinical question is always how to best help this person. So it's not only about diagnosis. The clinical question could be, for instance, should we do a biopsy on this patient or this person? So if you look at the famous research journals like Nature Medicine, you can easily find various models that come in these layered styles, and we like these layered styles on the computer side. You know, the internet is a stack. A lot of if you do app development, it's a stack. One of the most well-paid jobs you can have in computer science is to be a so-called full stack developer. And now in medicine, we talk about these stacks also. We talk about how to compute multimodally from a lot of data that are stacked. And here you see one out of many examples. I think I have another one here. Yes, here's another stack. And the stack here is called a knowledge network, but the various stack layers are genomics, microbiome, exposure, behavior, clinical test, and participant contributed data. So and this is from Science Translational Medicine. So it's easy to find in the last 10 years a lot of good description of what is precision medicine really. And as you see to the right there, it's about helping that person in red and finding out what is the data we can pick from each level of the stack or each layer of the stack to help this person with precision. And as I mentioned briefly before, it can be not only about curative care, but also prevention. Is this person at risk? So for instance, smoking, as you know, never a good idea. But what does it mean for a particular individual that smokes now to stop smoking? What does it do to the actual risks? And you can give a very detailed answer now to this question, and you can show the person that here are your health benefits if you stop smoking. And last time I was in Indonesia was in 1990. Then these, are they called Kretek cigarettes? The ginger cigarettes, they were very popular. Are they still popular, Dimar?
Yes, for the elderly group, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, maybe you can give a detailed question for or answer to someone who smokes these cigarettes. How do they impact my health? But also for a healthy person, like I eat 4 bananas in the morning, say, what does it do to my body? What does it do to my health? How is it contributing? Am I eating my bananas too early? Am I eating too many bananas? This is now possible to give detailed answers to, and it's not only about diet, it's about lifestyle in general. So I think this is my final layered model, and this one is internal from our precision medicine task for work here in Stockholm. So we have the genome, epigenome, transcriptome, proteome, digital pathology, immunome, functional assays, and radiomics. And if you don't know what all of these are, it's not so important, but just let me say that radiomics, for instance, is about radiology, but the omics connected to radiology is what sort of conclusions can we draw from analyzing the images. And I work here myself on automated segmentation of various organs in the body. So you have a computerized tomography, a CT scan of everything from the gut up to the brain, more or less. And you can segment various organs in 3D. And you can do this using artificial intelligence. So it's a self-correcting, self-learning system. So you could segment the liver, you could segment kidney, you can segment the adrenal glands, for instance. And the purpose would be, for instance, to look for metastasis because you are afraid that there might be a relapse in someone that suffered cancer before but seems to be okay now. And the quality of the algorithms that I helped develop here is now so high that we can see in validation that it's better than the human radiologists. And radiologists are extremely important resources for all hospitals in the world. I know there are many countries where there are hardly any radiologists and not much radiology going on because there are so few scanners. But here in the West, it's also the case that they have high salary. There are too few of them. And they have so many tasks every day that if you can free up, say, 30 seconds per patient for them, just 5-10 minutes per day, it's really significant, because that means that they can do other things, like they can call up some patients to ask them questions and so on, things that they normally don't have time for to do in a particular working day. So it's classical AI in the sense that AI is fast to compute, AI is fast to do things like segmentation. AI can provide one modality that goes into the decision support system for the medical doctor. That's the idea. And similar with the others. I just took radiomics as an example because that's what I'm working on right now here at the hospital. I said before also that the clinical question is hardly ever, is this, for instance, lung cancer or not lung cancer? If you're interested in computer science, AI, engineering, and also health informatics, you see on the internet there are these challenges like, can you contribute to healthcare? Can you classify the patients? Here is a database. Your job is to sort the database into cancer cases and no cancer cases. And if you do that really well, you win the competition. You might think, oh, now I have contributed. My algorithm will go to hospitals and they can use this and so on. But then you have the knowledge gap between the work that you've done and what is actually required, because what they want is not the answer to, is this lung cancer or not? And in this slide, you see the development of lung cancer in the last 30 or so years, that it's changed so much. It used to be one disease. Now I've lost count. I think there are about 80 different kinds of lung cancer. So there's a huge taxonomic tree. What kind of lung cancer is it? Large cell, small cell, squamous, with oncogenic, without oncogenic alteration? All these questions the clinicians need to know now in order to realize precision medicine for these cancer patients. And again, as I said before, the clinical question might be, should we do a biopsy or not? Should we do another scan or not? Should this person be remitted and come back in 3 weeks, 3 days, 3 months? All these clinical questions will not be helped so much by, say, a Kaggle competition or something like that. So this gap we have to be conscious about, and that is why I moved a lot of my research from my engineering university to the medical university, to be closer to the clinicians, to work with radiologists, oncologists, pathologists, geneticists, all these experts, to know what are your clinical problems. So I never come here and say, I have a great AI algorithm, you can use it for precision medicine, would you like to try it on your data? I never do that. So instead I say, what is your problem? They explain the problem to me, and then I can answer, is this a difficult problem? Is this an easy problem? Is this a problem that AI could help solve or not? Can you do it with just good statistics? You don't need Python. Maybe you can do it in Stata or R or some software that's more geared towards statistics that the person already knows, and so on. So this is very much my daily job, to work with researchers, but also with clinicians. And I'm sure it is true also outside the medical domain, but it's particularly true for the health domain, that we've become so dependent now on the data that we can get on the patient in order to give them the best possible care. So it's really, we need more hands. So I'm very glad that you study health informatics, and please consider working with healthcare in the future, or do basic research that can support healthcare, because the planet needs it, especially things that we can generalize and to give away to countries that cannot afford to develop these algorithms themselves, but also maybe don't have the hardware, like scanners, for instance, because they are very, very expensive machines. Just to give you an idea, a deep learning filter for one magnetic resonance imaging scanner, the hospital pays about $100,000 for that. One filter to just improve the quality of the images that are rendered for the physicist or the radiologist to inspect. So $100,000 for one deep learning filter. And this means that even sometimes if we can use AI for precision medicine, maybe we cannot afford it. We have to think about what it is that it gives us and how much is the cost. And I don't want to bore you with too much health economics, but if someone is ill, some other person, part of the care side, will think about what can be realistically done to help this person, because they cannot give every possible examination to every person that might suffer from a disease. And therefore, the triaging, taking care of people to get them to the right department and so on, that's going to be very important. Oh, that room is dark again. This is so exciting. So here's another image on how we do this stratification. And here's an example where we use newly developed techniques here at Karolinska for molecular stratification. So if you just have a bunch of people, a large cohort to begin with, and you have some people that you suspect of having serious diagnosis, they probably have symptoms of some kind that have not yet been diagnosed, and therefore they need a diagnosis. Once they are diagnosed, they can be given a particular treatment, and then their treatment can be monitored. And sometimes it's not rocket science. So we have now a huge ongoing study at Karolinska Institutet where people with colorectal cancer are in a study where they are randomized, given aspirin or not. And you know, aspirin is not even something that requires a prescription in any country. You shouldn't eat too much of it, but basically it's not dangerous. It's not a hard drug by any means. But the study is investigating, are these aspirin type pills giving you a significant increased protection against colorectal cancer? And if you have suffered from colorectal cancer before, will it prevent you from having a relapse? And it may sound preposterous that something that, you know, costs next to nothing and is prescription free, that could actually work to protect against me getting cancer. But this is something that needs a trial. And the idea why look at aspirin comes in part from molecular medicine and from understanding at the finer and finer granulation what is happening in the body. And you can do this in many different ways. So you can try to do stem cell transplants, or you can look at circulating DNA in a patient's body from the tumor, so-called ctDNA. You can do it in many different things. But of course, what if aspirin is really a great protective barrier against colorectal cancer? Then of course we should give it to everyone, and only a low dose is required to everyone that has suffered once at least from colorectal cancer. So that's an example of a study where you take a cohort of people that have suffered from this particular cancer, you divide them by random into different groups, you give them a treatment, half of the group, and then you compare this as a case control. And in this particular case, what it says in the lower right corner here, developing economical models and legal ethical aspects, is very easy, because you have to eat a lot of aspirin to get into trouble, and it's cheap. So there are, of course, other rare diseases in particular where the medicine costs hundreds of thousands of dollars for each patient, and then you might run into an ethical problem. Let's say this person is 82 years old and this costs $300,000, and it might save this person, but it also might not, and there are some probabilities involved. Of course, we should try and save everybody regardless of the costs, but if we have only a fixed set of resources to give to a large set of patients, who should we help, who should we not help? This is, of course, a very difficult and important ethical problem that needs to be discussed. And precision medicine, and to some extent AI, is helping us to get more options. Maybe we could do a little bit of both. Maybe we could help more people in the future. That's how we'd like to see it. That's what we want should happen. And in this particular ecosystem that I'm in now, we have Karolinska Institutet that I mentioned. The large K here is one of the best hospitals in the world, Karolinska University Hospital. We get the sickest patients in Sweden, so they are remitted here from other hospitals. We have some incredible machinery here. We have a Swedish invention called the Gamma knife, that with incredible prediction and precision can take out tumorous growth inside your head, for instance, without damaging the surrounding tissue too much. And we are, however, on the hospital side, very much working in tandem with the research side on Karolinska Institutet. And then there is something called SciLife Lab, which does a lot of omics. So lots of molecular medicine, single cell medicine, and especially proteomics, but also other like transcriptomics, metabolomics, all sorts of omics are happening there. So this is an exciting ecosystem to be in, because you have researchers, you have wet lab people. So when you talk about data for precision medicine, you don't just talk about ones and zeros. You talk about tissue samples, saliva, things that are stored in the biobank, genetic material. So very, very exciting from a data point of view. And what we want is what it says to the right there: routine implementation in the hospital of precision medicine. And if we get that, we think that we can shorten the diagnosis of people with rare diseases from today around 15 years median, 15 years to about 9 months. That's the ambition. Humans are great at doing wonderful things with data. So here's one example. This is also a Swedish project that involves all of the parties I just cited. And it's called the Human Protein Atlas. And if you haven't seen this one, I'm sure you've seen other databases that are really helping with diagnosis and treatment today. So we have genome-wide association, study catalog, and many other things. And you might have heard of also AI getting into the picture now with AlphaFold that can construct these synthetic proteins and shorten the development cycle for people trying to develop new treatments. So there's a lot going on, and I thought I'd end with a couple of examples that come from health informatics students that took the same master program here that Dimas has been involved with. So here was one student that did a I would say very much a health informatics design. We call it a conceptual design to give decision support for a particular kind of cancer, which is lymphoma. Now, lymphoma has not to do with solid tumor, so it's special in that sense that this is hematology. So this is about analyzing the blood and the bodily fluids, trying to understand how to best treat this cancer. And it's very difficult and requires many different specialties in the discipline. So a molecular tumor board is a conference where you have different specialties. So it's much like many hospital conferences where different doctors talk about one patient at a time. But what is special about this one is that there might not be a surgeon here, there might be a hematologist instead, and there might be a proteomics person and a data person. They might even let someone like me in. And what my student was working on and that we got published here was how to do a clinical decision support system that supports the planning and execution of these MTBs, these conferences. And a lot of this is based on AI work that does automatic information extraction for the person planning this conference. So it goes out on PubMed. PubMed is a medical archive with 21 million papers. Out of these 21 million papers, it finds maybe 3 or 8 or 12 papers that support what is going to be talked about in one of these conferences. And it could be 5 patients maybe in 1 hour that they talk about. So this is one crisp example of how health informatics can help precision medicine using AI. Here's another example, is another student, or Linda Brahimlari, who was looking again for lymphoma, but she was looking at a different problem, and we just submitted this now, so it's not published yet, but we hope it will be. She is supporting geneticist sitting there thinking about a particular patient and a particular gene profile. So is this mutation or this damage to the genetic material going to impact this person's treatment or diagnosis? And the problem is that then the geneticist is depending on many different databases, and sometimes these databases don't report things in harmony. They are inconsistent. So one gene might be reported as pathogenic in one database and benign in another database. And which one should the geneticist trust? So we asked a large tech company to actually help us for free on this one. And they said, you can use a large language model that we trained for, huge cost. You do a copy of that, you upload a couple of hundred PDFs that are relevant with your sensitive patient data, you push a button and those documents are indexed according to your large language model. And then you get the prompt window, just like when you use ChatGPT, you can ask the system, which one should I trust? Or can you give me all the benign, the reasons for why this is likely a benign gene for this particular patient. So this is one other example. I did have one more example, but I won't go through it because I want you to be able to ask questions. But I just want to explain that these are psychologists that sit in a room where there are no patients, but people that are suffering from various mental challenges like depression, panic syndrome, social phobia. They are at the other end of these people's communication channels. So they sit by the computer and send asynchronous messages, much like a closed email system. And they do this using cognitive therapies for 12 weeks. And we now have a huge randomized controlled trial where these psychologists are given help by an AI system, which patient they should give more support, which people in treatment they should look extra on, maybe follow up if they didn't do their homework, what's going on, and so on. So very soon we will know if the psychologists think that this is a useful system or not. And I wanted to mention this because there is a rumor that in the world and in the European Union, there is no AI software in use for precision medicine. But I would say this is a good example. We are using this on patients now, and it is in randomized clinical trial, and it is an adaptive platform. So it's definitely learning and getting smarter year by year. All we need to know is if the psychologists also like it. And as a computer scientist, even if I have some medical training, but not much, I'm not used to, being validated by people that don't understand anything about AI. So it's very exciting for me to see, do they find this beneficial or not? But I'll stop there and take questions because that is... I think it's best. If I can find my cursor, I could stop sharing. There we go.
Well, thank you very much, Magnus, for your brief and crystal clear presentation about precision medicine and data science. And I capture a lot of highlights here from the beginning where you encourage or where you give some indications that this precision medicine and data-driven decision is very beneficial for us, especially here in health economics, like the hospital management, because it will lead to like cost efficiency, better care, and also like really personalized medicine for the patient. And also that we learn a lot that it needs intersectoral collaboration between like, the engineering parts or experts and also like the healthcare professional, where the healthcare professional is the one who understands what clinical problems that exist, but they don't have the solution. So that's why we need to combine this aspect together while you have this kind of system between Karolinska Institute, that Sci-Life Lab, and those part of research, at Universitas Gadjah Mada, actually we have this academic health system, but we are still working to work more with biobank, with genome sequencing and those specific areas. And I would like to start with one question as a moderator, but later I will call for more questions from the faculty members. Here we have Ariani and also Guardian. Hopefully that they will have another concern, and also students, please prepare your questions. So at 31st of December 2023, Indonesia, like the whole country, we will have this kind of electronic medical records installed in all of the hospital, in which allow us to share our data from one hospital to another, because we don't have that kind of interoperability at this moment. But from your perspective, 23 years or 20 years of expertise in those fields, what kind of pitfalls that we need to avoid in terms of utilizing those electronic medical data to have a leapfrog in precision medicine and data-driven decision making?
Yeah, first of all, that's a great political decision. I hope that it's going to be smooth and that you actually get an interoperable system. It would be extremely valuable. And I do hope you will leapfrog this development, because here in the West, it's been super slow. For instance, in Sweden, as you know, we don't have a lot of Swedes. We're about 10 million people, so it's a small country, but it's large geographically, and we have 27 different regions in our country. And within each region, I'd say interoperability is pretty good. But when you share between regions, legal gets involved, and other departments get involved, and there's always this question about who is really responsible if two registers are meshed or shared, or you do some multimodal analysis, taking images from one region and text from another region, and you somehow fuse those using AI techniques. That's what we want to do, right? Then it's like, no, you can't have two regions, because one of them has to be the responsible one and the other is like a co-developer or co-investigator, and then they have to argue about that. So everything is slow. We do have a queue for researchers to get real primary data, real patient data. That seems to be working well in Sweden. But the queue, it takes about 9 months to get the data. And if you're doing a master thesis for 5 months, you can't wait 9 months for data. So you need to have like a look ahead all the time for your, let's say, your PhD students and so on. And also with the quick developments, not just in the AI field, because we know that's quick, but on the medical side as well, on the diagnostic side, there's so much development. So 9 months is really a long time. So I'm hoping if I visit next year, I want you to tell me, yeah, it's been running now for 4 months, and as a researcher, it takes me about 10 days to get the data. Then I can, I can congratulate you and say you have leapfrogged us already. So that's what I'm hoping for. But yeah. I will be watching with great interest.
Yeah, thank you very much. Because last December, I think one of our Ministry of Health team members, they visited Karolinska University Hukuset, and they met with the Chief Medical Information Officer, and we were looking forward to like supervision from Karolinska, because you have implemented those kind of electronic medical records from 1990, which is like 30 years or so. But thank you very much for your response. I know we have another question from students, but unfortunately that she could not activate her microphone. So the question is about, we realize that the artificial intelligence is reliable and powerful for health professionals, but a lot of people are kind of having fear that the artificial intelligence will replace, and especially we have a lot of that fight in Indonesia that people agree about this implementation for their work because it will lose like the artificial jobs. But how could we challenge this paradigm, especially in healthcare settings or in those areas where we intersect a lot?
Yeah, I know what is not working. So explainable AI transparency is not working. It's still too technical. And if we think about a hospital today, doctors use lots of very technical equipment, these scanners that we talked about, but also things like cyclotrons and mass spectrometry and very advanced machinery, very advanced physics. They don't need to understand exactly what goes on in these machines, but they have to trust them. And the problem you are bringing up here, and the person that asked the question is very much about that this trust might not be there from the people, from the patient. So even if the doctors trust, say, the AI software, how can this trust be conveyed from the caregiver to the person that needs care? This is not easy. I think one lesson that we learned with whole genome sequencing is that the process cannot be too fast. So today doctors say we want to sequence everybody because that can help us give them the best assistance. But nobody said that 10 years ago. Nobody. It would not have been possible because lots of people had fear about what's going to happen with people will use the CRISPR-Cas9 scissors a lot and cut in their children's genetic material, and we will get a very strange society and so on. So far it has not happened very much, but there is still this risk, and it still needs regulation. So I would say AI needs regulation too, and the solution in most countries, not just in the West, has been to say that the decision maker is always the human and the AI gives only decision support. But at the same time, I talked to you about an automatic segmentation algorithm that I'm working on, where the doctors say, please replace me. I don't want to do this. The algorithm is better. But they are not out of a job. They want to do different things. So they want to keep their job, but they don't want to do the segmentation. They are slow. They are not as good as the algorithm, and they would rather do something else. So in that case, it's not so difficult to say, yes, bring AI in. But if they were to say, oh, it's sort of good, but we also don't trust it and we don't want to be replaced, then I wouldn't be working on it, I think. But now I am almost the one saying, take it easy, not too fast. They just say, oh, more, give me more algorithms, faster algorithms. Do you need more machines to compute faster?
Well, thank you very much for the illustration. So I do believe that if we could bring the benefit for healthcare professionals, then they can embrace their trust to this machine learning and also artificial intelligence, which at the end of the day, it will cut some time that you have also presented also earlier today. And also it will make our, work easier because it, simplify our work processes, especially in our complex system healthcare settings. And dear students and participants, now this is your time to raise concern and questions to Magnus because now we have like a very exciting time where we can learn a lot from and their research about precision medicine and also the data-driven decision making. And we have faculty members here. We have Mrs. Ariani. So Mrs. Ariani or the other students, would you like to raise another question? So please activate your microphone because previously you were unable to activate your microphone, but now you are allowed to activate your microphone. Feel free. So I can see that Mrs. Ariani is activating her audio previously.
Hi, Dimas. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Hello, Mr. Dr. Bowman. Thank you very much for your lecture. It is very inspiring, and yes, it is very new field for us here. As Dimas mentioned, that we are just started about the electronic medical record, and I believe and I positive that clinical decision support system will raise and the use of data here, if you use it correctly, it will help us. And just issue that you both of you just discussed a while ago, maybe the anxiety of the clinicians, whether they will accept the AI or CDSS system. Well, I think this is the time that physicians, nurses, or any other clinicians, while they are aware that humans always have potential error. So yes, I do believe that this technology always can support us to make our work easier, and of course more valid, more what do you call this, make our work easier and help us to make decisions. But maybe my concern, maybe I would like to ask your comment on this. Most of, because as you may know, our countries just started to use the electronic medical record in the hospitals and any other field community, not only in the inside the hospital, about the electronic one. There are many, vendors, developers to trying to make a good system, a good electronic medical record system. I don't know if you have maybe suggestion for them, because as far as I know, like I don't know in Sweden, but what I know in the US, in UK, most hospitals, they use third-party vendors for the electronic medical record. So I believe they have long time history for research, so they have very good data structured, and so we as a clinicians just can use the data easily. But now here, I believe we have so many experts on that, but I don't know how we start to make a good construction or building or framework for a good data structure, so we can use the data very wise and very good to help our work.
Yeah, it's a super important question. Thanks for that. I think many of these third-party contributors, they will be commercial companies, and they might use some code that they don't want to share. So one thing to think about is that in the research community, we are very open. We like to share code. We like to have other people help us, through free software, open software, and which is very important. If you want to leapfrog, of course, we want to give you the code also so that you can make it better than our code. But one thing I have seen with AI is that if you have a commercial distributor of AI software, they want to keep the customer happy, and sometimes they report a little bit stronger signal than is actually motivated scientifically. If you want to be nitty-gritty, it's like they are cherry picking a little bit from the data. Not all, of course. There are serious vendors that would never do this, but I have encountered this actually here at the hospital, where someone has said, "Oh, we didn't want to use researcher developed software because it's so shaky, so we bought something off the shelf, and now we get the good signal here. We have balanced accuracy 0.83 or something." And then when I tried to reproduce their results, maybe with my students, we see that, well, we can't get 0.83, we can get 0.75 or something. So we have to reverse engineer their code, and we see, okay, they did something very strange here. That's how they got the signal up. And of course, for someone in healthcare, if they get 0.83 from there and 0.75 from there, they think the 0.83 one is a better software. But in fact, it's not. It's the worse software. It's like the software controlling my light. It's not good software. But it's one thing to think about the transparency and how they actually share the code. And then another thing is there will be some sort of procurement, I guess, where hospitals will buy from third-party vendors. And there's always this tendency all over the world to get the cheapest company that with the cheapest offer, they get the job. And this is very short-term efficient, but long-term, of course, you want to build a serious relationship with vendors. And I would love to see, Indonesian software vendors, not international, not multinational companies. It's better to take the experience from other countries and let the Indonesian companies benefit and learn, because that's how you control the intellectual property of your country. It's not to be chauvinistic and say, Indonesia is the best country in the world. I don't know. It's more to say that you have more control and you know what is good yourselves. And that's what we have seen with successful leapfrogging before in your part of the world for telecoms and so on. You have done some very good leapfrogging by understanding exactly what sort of processes you are working with. So I hope to see that again also for healthcare. People will tell you, oh, it's not possible because healthcare data is so sensitive. Who owns it? Should the company own it? And so on. That's not so important, because if someone is sick or someone you love is really sick, you just say, take my data, solve the problem. You don't care, which is different from all other industries, right? Yes, right. You're nodding. It's
right,
good.
right.
So that's actually not a hindrance. It's an opportunity that we have this situation that people just say, help me take my data.
Interesting. Yeah, willingness to share and do more and more research. And I think benchmarking, collaborating also with
benchmarking,
yes, a person like you, so will also accelerate our improvement. So hopefully we can do another future collaboration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really
thank
appreciate
you so much.
it.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mrs. Aryan and Magnus. So would you mind to have one more question or two more questions? So we have one Erika here. So serious question whether a genetic data could be used to prevent people having diabetes in population setting, because we have discovered that some people are vulnerable to encounter like diabetes mellitus, and especially people who have like inherited diabetes from their parents or ancestors. So it's possible to use genetic data for a population setting prevention.
Yeah, I mean, diabetes is complex in the sense that type 2 is very much a lifestyle disease, but type 1, where you have the genetic disposition, is not at all the same situation. So I think if we want people to realize that there are ways to prevent diabetes, then we must also get people to realize that there are some things that cannot be prevented. You can do everything right with your lifestyle. You eat right, you don't smoke, you exercise, you move around, you stand up working, you sleep well. Does not matter. It does not help. It makes you feel better, okay, but it does not help with diabetes mellitus. So I think it's a lot about information, but definitely the multimodal approach where we can look at the importance of genes and damage to the genetic material and mutations, unwanted mutations, together with looking at the lifestyle. This is where prevention and medicine meet, I think, because I'm not sure if it's true, but Lee Hood and other people, including my boss here in precision medicine, I heard her say on a podcast, the situation for diabetes and some other some other population diseases now that are going around the world, unfortunately, is that you either pay $1 now or you pay $6 when the person needs the care. So therefore, the prevention dollar is, you really get 6 times the value. And I think, I hope it's true, sort of, and I hope we get the opportunity to try it, but it's very controversial always when you talk in quantitative terms, and when you say things like 1 hour or 6 later, maybe it's 1 hour or 3 later or 1 hour or 50 later. We have to evaluate this and see, and we have just started. So I think we need another 10 years or so to know how to best do this. But for diabetes in your country, I think you can be inspired by a lot of research done, for instance, in the Middle East, where they had, I think, the largest problem in the world with type 2 diabetes, but they also tried to solve from the health authorities the problem of how to best inform people that you cannot have 4 Diet Cokes per day. There is nothing in a Diet Coke that you need. And just because it doesn't contain sugar doesn't mean it's good for you, and the effect it has on your body will be this. And it's not, I don't mean that, I'm not thinking that you should treat people like children. It's just that a lot of people don't know. They just say, okay, no sugar, then it's healthy. That is not the story. It's not true just because there's no sugar in there that you do not increase the risk of diabetes type 2. So it's very much an information problem. And there's been a lot published from that part of the world, which I think we can all learn from, because they have some of the countries there are so young, and the trend is so unfortunate that we can maybe see how they spent their money on trying to inform. So that will be one concrete recommendation, to leapfrog again.
Well, thank you very much for your valuable insight. And I think we have reached our, end of the sessions today, but hopefully that in the future we can have more benchmarking and collaborations. And we are really expecting your arrival in Indonesia, because it has been like 20 or more years. So you could see a lot of development happening in Indonesia later in 2024.
Yeah, and can I just say, thanks so much for letting me speak to you today. And I see the seminar Rabuan one-liner there, Data Science for Health Informatics. I think that's super cool. And to all of you in this call, I think you're studying something that is very much increasing in importance every year, even every month. So congratulations on a great education choice, and hopefully this will give you a lot of rewards and satisfaction and gratification in your work. So best of luck to all of you, and thanks for listening today, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you very much, Magnus, and also have a wonderful day today. And also, this is like a kind of advertisement, actually. So we have open course for data science, where healthcare professionals, medical students, nursing students, or nutrition students, they are invited to participate in this open course. It is around 12 sessions. We will explore both CRISP-DM methodology. Also, we will learn to work with dummy data set and also real data set, where we develop algorithms. So we will let students this open information. But also, this is your guest lecture is also part of this open guest lecture, where we are calling for insight from developed countries. And so your valuable experience in precision medicine and also artificial intelligence. But again, I would like to extend our gratitude and thanks for attending our lecture today, Magnus. This is very honor for us to have you, and looking forward for another collaboration, and have a nice day today. Bye, Magnus. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.